Um, Regarding defense, I know every situation is different, but when you guys need a defensive stop, who are some of your go-to players right now?
Yeah, I would say right now it's definitely Aaliyah, it's Kylie, and it's Hannah. Aaliyah brings that intensity from a point guard standpoint. She did a great job picking up Britt Prince last night. Hasn't played a lot of minutes, we're young and she's starting to play that role. And Kylie's just been that defensive player all year. She's always put on the best player. Um, Sometimes it can be a tough situation because of matchups, and she's playing a lot of minutes. And then Hannah just being an undersized post player and being very athletic, she always gives the post player a very hard challenge, I would say, every game. I would say those are our three top defensive players.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, Coach. Jan said after the game last night that you could be Bobby Knight in this situation. You could be Pollyanna. Probably going to be somewhere in between.
Mhm.
What's kind of um, what's the personality of this team, and how are they going to respond best to what's going on?
Yeah, that's great. And I think we all been trying to like figure that out right now. And I keep saying that we're young, but the good thing about being young is these kids love basketball. I would say there's a difference between a lot of teams. There's some players who like basketball. There's some players who love basketball. We have a lot of kids who love basketball. And what I mean by that though is we're going to go in there and it's not a Bobby Knight session, right? We're not going to be yelling and screaming and that's just not how kids learn these days. It's really just watching the film. It's really teaching and it's really for having them to understand. And these kids are going to respond well. That's what they've been doing. The last couple games we've lost, the next couple practices we've had have been great. They've been intense, they've been great. The game plan has gone well. It's exactly what we want. It's just we need to translate it to the game now. And I think that's going to be our challenge. But these kids are great. They're fighters, they're competitors. I think that's what's hard is when you have a lot of kids who play young is sometimes they are afraid to make mistakes. Sometimes they're afraid to do things they're not used to. And I would say this group of kids um, are very just they're just competitive. That's just it. It's just hard to find competitors like them at a young age.
Dargan.
Yeah, I know Jan's obviously talked recently about, players being tight either at the beginning of games or at the end of games. I know free throws are probably maybe the hardest thing to replicate
Yeah.
the energy that's in play when you're in those type of moments late in the games. I mean, how do you guys best go about kind of making sure the energy when you get in those crunch time moments, if it does end up at the line, even everybody's kind of in a good mental spot for that?
Yeah, I think it goes back to practice. I think we have to really go back to the drawing boards of are we shooting enough free throws in practice? We are, but are we getting enough time in the gym when we don't have practice to shoot the free throws, right? Are we putting enough pressure on ourselves? I think sometimes too, the way I look at it, looking outside in from last year, not being here and being at Carolina, is one of those things where a lot of these players haven't was not put in this situation last year, right? It was an older team last year. They understood it. They've been through a lot of things. And now we have this new group who's starting to play with each other. We're trying to put formulas together. And when we're put in this situation, it's just something they haven't gone through yet. And I think this is great because now it's like what is this, game 17 or 18? And we gotta need to figure out. So I think now like the response is a lot of the our ladies are kind of like, yo, we got to figure it out. We got to get going. And that's kind of a response that we had after the game in the locker room.
Kyle.
Yeah, Jan has talked about how when it comes to substitutions and finding the right combinations during games, that you guys as assistant coaches have some input. Obviously, she has the final decision, but at least from my perspective, it feels like you guys have had a better success the last couple of games. How would you say the success has been with the lineups the last couple of games, and how much input do you guys get as assistant coaches?
Yeah. So assistant coaches, each of them have their player groups that they're in charge with, point guards, wings, and posts. And Jan does have the final say. I would say the one thing we're trying to do now that I think is helping is being more consistent and letting more free flow be play. Think sometimes, we're all new at this. It's our first time for a lot of things. and we're trying to make adjustments. And sometimes it's like you just got to let them play through. We got to just let, if some couple mistakes happens, just let it play through. Let them understand it. Let them get used to it, and let's minimize the substitution so they can start getting those rhythms, because the game of basketball is runs, right? That's what we always talk about. It's runs and having momentum, right? So when you keep subbing, and sometimes when you kill that momentum, it can be tough. And what we're learning is now let's just let the free flow happen. Let's let the momentum happen. Let's let these runs happen. And at the appropriate time, let's start subbing. I thought the last couple of games, you're right. I thought the consistency of that has been a lot better.
Chad.
Where are you guys at in terms of implementing a full court press? I know I'm sticking with the defensive theme here, but I know that's kind of your early wick here. I know that's something Raina was interested in early. You've seen it just in spots. Where is the progress there?
Yeah, we're still trying to figure out, because we're so, our style play is different. We're not the intense like what Louisville is, or what I'm used to, like Oregon. Oregon's going to be pretty intense. Let me put ball pressure. Let me do that. That's not what we do, but we're slowly, as you could see last night, we're doing a little bit more of a press, right? We're doing a little bit. First, we did a press break of some type of 2-2-1. Now we're like, okay, let's try to change it up a bit. What does our players feel comfortable with? And last night is a lot of success. We're starting to see what they're good at. I think now we just got to do one of those things, like we just got to have fun with it. So let's start doing some random things, because when you just do something consistently, it's easy to scout. But when you start changing things up, now, Nebraska didn't handle that pressure well. And that builds us confidence. So I think for the future, you'll definitely probably see some more stuff.
Jeff.
Yeah, a lot was made during football season about, travel and time zones and all that kind of stuff. You're making a 2 time zone trip for this this little 2 game road trip. How do you handle that, and how do you combat, whether it's jet lag or fatigue or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be different. I think we have the better side to it compared to those other teams, because they got to travel a ton. But we're just going to treat it like a normal game. I don't think, the whole jet lag, we haven't really experienced that stuff yet. But really just try to treat it normally, try to get our kids in the mindset, and really try to get rest, drink lots of water, and stay hydrated. I think that's just what the key is, and just do your normal routine. Be consistent.
Dargan.
I'm sure Ava's had this one circled on her calendar for a while. Just how much excitement do you sense from her going out there?
Yeah, she's excited. She's super, super excited. See some family. It's great. We're just happy to be able to go out there with her. Yeah, she's just such a great kid. I love coaching her. I love being around her. She's so positive. She helps other people. She brings the best out of everyone, and it'll be a exciting trip for her for sure.
Chad, go ahead.
Yeah, actually sticking with the Ava Hayden theme here. Jan mentioned last night that's moving Hannah to the 5. That's maybe one person that could get her minutes shaved a little bit. Is the Oregon matchup and maybe even Washington matchup, if you looked at it, is that more inclined to be more of a smaller lineup again? Are you guys pretty intent on sticking with Hannah at the 5?
Yeah, I mean that's the goal. That's the goal right now. I think what's hard, because Addie, I think she has one of the best field goal percentages, efficient field goal percentages. So I think at times, like I said, the substitution is really trying to, we have all these puzzles. This is all these pieces of the puzzles is how do we put them in the right spot? And Ava is great. She's so athletic. She can jump out of the building. She can get rebounds. And that's what we got to start figuring out, is how can we utilize her a little bit more too, which is hard because Hannah is at the 5. But we're trying to figure that out, and it's going to take some time. But once we get it, we're like, I know Coach Jensen keeps saying it, but we really are just 1 or 2 possessions away. I mean, with a team like this who's continuing the fight, we just need 1 win. That's all we need. We just need 1 to get going, because these kids really do believe. Everyone knows their role. Everyone is supporting each other. And that's the best thing you can do in this time with a 3-game, whatever it is, 3 or 4 game losing streak, is we're not going down that black hole, right? We see the light. We just got to get there.
Kyle.
Yeah, I asked Jan last night, during a losing streak like this, you generally need somebody to step up in the locker room and on the court to be that vocal leader. And she, with no hesitation, said Aaliyah Guyton's been someone that's really stepped up, which you don't see a lot from a freshman. And I
Yeah.
think Taylor Stremmel is probably another one. Just what have you seen from Taylor and then Aaliyah that has allowed them to be this type of leader as a freshman?
Yeah, definitely with both of them, right? They show emotions. They're very, they'll dive on the floor. They want to do the extra work. They come in, they ask for film. They're learners, right? They're learners. They're like a sponge. I think that's what's hard when you're young, is to be a sponge, not to take criticism, but to listen. And those two are the best that really can take that information and figure out, you're right, that was a bad shot, but I want to shoot it, but I understand it because listen, that shot is open. And when we rep it and we start doing it in practice and they see it, that's what makes them great. Is just really taking the knowledge in and using it best, and then being a great teammate. I think that's hard for these days, is trying to find those great teammates, because a lot of people about themselves, and we have 14 people on our roster and all of them are great. All of them are perfect. And Aaliyah and Strem are just, they're our dogs of our team. They have their heart and soul, and they're starting to come up, and that's what we need right now.
Jeff.
Yeah, back to the Heidi theme. Is as athletic as she is could she be transformed into a 4?
That's a great question. That's a great question. I mean, with her athleticism, with her ability, probably, yeah. I think that's stuff that we'll probably look at in the off season. Obviously, it's just too early to do it now, especially in midseason. But yeah, with situations, having two bigs on the floor that are dominant. Yeah, I mean, those are some things that are great, that you can throw some wrinkles in some sets at times to really throw some of the offensive off.
All right.